If you undress me, you accept my species. Alien princess tested the humans' forbidden lusts. The chamber was built for silence. Soft light flowed from the walls like mist, changing color with slow breaths. At the center of the room stood Princess Serixa of the Veilthrin, tall and still, wrapped in layers of living fabric that shimmered like moonstone. Each layer was alive in its own way, responding to her thoughts, guarding her body, her scent, her very presence from the outside world. Across from her stood a single human. Elia's ward kept his hands relaxed at his sides. He did not bow too deeply. He did not stare. He did not pretend confidence he did not feel. He stood the way humans often did when facing something they did not fully understand, balanced between fear and curiosity. The watchers were hidden behind the walls. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and minds observed without being seen. For them, this was not diplomacy. It was a test. The Veilthrin had ruled their sector of space for thousands of cycles, not through war, but through biology. Their species bonded deeply, instantly, and permanently. To see one unveiled was to be changed forever. Most species could not resist the instincts that followed. Obsession, possession, submission, sometimes violence, sometimes worship. Humans were new, humans were unpredictable. Princess Serixa broke the silence first. "You understand why you are here," she said. Her voice carried a layered tone, calm on the surface, heavy beneath. It was designed to command attention without force. Elias nodded. "I understand what your people believe," he said. "I'm here to prove or disprove it." A faint ripple moved through her outer veil. Among her kind, it was a sign of interest. "You were warned," she said. "If I remove my coverings, you will be exposed to signals your kind has never faced. Desire, attachment, protective impulse. You may feel compelled to act." "I was warned," Elias said again. "Many before you said the same," Serixa replied. "They failed." She lifted one long, slender hand. The first layer of her veil loosened and fell away like liquid light. The air changed. Elias felt it immediately. It was not a physical touch. It was more like a pressure behind the eyes, a warmth in the chest, a sudden awareness that the being in front of him was important in a way his mind could not fully explain. His heart beat faster. His breath shortened. The watchers waited for signs, a step forward. A change in posture, hunger. Elias did none of that. He shifted his weight slightly and inhaled through his nose. He focused on the sound of his breathing, the feel of the floor beneath his boots. He had learned this long ago back on Earth during training meant for panic, not alien princesses. Serixa noticed. "Your body reacts," she said. "Yes," Elias replied honestly, "but that doesn't mean I've decided anything." A second veil slipped free. The light grew warmer, richer. The air carried a faint scent, not sharp, not sweet, but deeply personal, like a memory he had never lived. Images flickered at the edge of his thoughts, standing beside her, protecting her, being needed. His fingers twitched once. He clasped his hands together behind his back. "You feel the pull," Serixa said softly now. "Most species would already be kneeling." Elias swallowed. "Most species don't train themselves to feel something without obeying it." That answer traveled far beyond the chamber. The Veilthrin observers exchanged silent signals. This was not expected. A third veil fell away. Now Serix's form was clearer, not naked but unshielded. Her skin glowed faintly, patterned with living lines that responded to emotion. Her eyes, large and dark, held depth that pulled at him, not with lust but with meaning. Elias felt the urge to speak, to reassure her, to promise something he did not yet understand. His mouth opened, then closed. Instead, he said, "May I ask you something?" She hesitated. No one had ever asked a question at this stage. "You may," she said. "Is this trial for me," Elias asked, "or for you?" The question landed like a crack in crystal. Serix's breathing changed. Her inner veil flickered, responding to surprise. "Explain." "You're testing whether humans can control desire," Elias said. "But no one asked whether you want to be tested this way, whether you want to stand here uncovered for strangers to judge." The silence deepened. For the first time in her life, Serixa felt exposed in a way no veil had ever prevented. "This is my duty," she said, but the words lacked strength. "Duty doesn't cancel choice," Elias replied. His voice was steady, though his pulse was loud in his ears. "If you want me to continue, I will. If you don't, I won't. Either way, I won't touch you unless you ask." The watchers reacted sharply. This was wrong. The ritual did not include negotiation. Serixa studied him closely now, not as a subject, but as a person. She saw the strain in his jaw, the effort it took for him to stand still, to remain respectful while his instincts pushed against him. "You are affected," she said. "Yes," Elias said, "but I'm still me." Slowly, deliberately, Sarixa lifted her hands and removed another layer. The chamber brightened. The air hummed softly, reacting to her biology now fully present. Elias felt the pull grow stronger, a deep need to protect, to stay, to matter. He closed his eyes for 1 second, then opened them again. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not crossing any line you don't draw." Something inside Sarixa shifted. For generations, her people believed desire was a force that controlled others, a weapon, a test of worth. But here was a species that carried desire like a weight, not a chain. "You surprise us," she said quietly. "I hear that a lot," Elias answered, managing a small smile. The final veil remained. Tradition demanded it be removed without pause, without words, but Sarixa did not move. "If I remove this," she said, "you will be bound by our law. You will carry responsibility for my species." Elias did not answer right away. He looked at her, truly looked, not as an object or a symbol, but as someone standing alone under impossible expectations. "Then don't remove it yet," he said. "We can talk, learn, decide together." That suggestion sent shockwaves through the unseen observers. Sarix's hand trembled slightly. No one had ever offered her time. She lowered her arm. "For the first time," she said, "the trial will pause." The lights dimmed gently, as if the chamber itself was holding its breath. Far beyond the room, the Veilthrin began to understand that humanity's danger was not its desire, but its restraint. The pause did not end the trial. It changed it. When the lights softened and the chamber doors sealed, Princess Sarixa remained standing across from Elia's ward. The distance between them was unchanged, yet something invisible had shifted. The Watchers were still present, but their certainty was gone. This was no longer a ritual following ancient rules. It was something new, and that frightened them more than failure ever had. Sarixa slowly lowered her hands. The final veil still rested around her shoulders, glowing faintly. Her breathing was steady, but her thoughts were not. For the first time in her life, she was not following a path set by ancestors. She was standing in a moment that belonged only to her. "You should feel compelled to speak differently," she said, "to promise yourself, to claim responsibility." Elias nodded. "I do feel it," he said, "but feeling something doesn't mean I must act on it right now." She studied his face again. Humans showed emotion openly. Small changes meant everything. His eyes were focused, not hungry. His posture was respectful, not submissive. There was effort in him, but also calm. "You could walk away," she said. "Most would not." "I could," Elias agreed. "But leaving without understanding would be the easy choice. Humans don't grow from easy choices." Those words echoed through the unseen halls. The observers argued in silence. Some demanded the trial end. Others demanded it continue at once. No one agreed. Sarixa took one careful step closer. Elias felt the change immediately. The warmth grew stronger. The sense of connection deepened. He did not step back, but he did not move forward either. "Tell me," she said, "what do humans do when desire conflicts with duty?" Elias thought for a moment. "Sometimes we fail," he said honestly. "But when we succeed, it's because we choose values over impulse. We remind ourselves who we want to be." "Not what you want," she said. "Exactly," he replied. That answer mattered more than any test result. Sarixa turned slightly, angling her body so she was no longer presenting herself as a symbol, but as a person. It was a small gesture, but for her species, it was deeply personal. "My people believe bonding must be immediate," she said. "That delay weakens truth." "Humans believe truth gets stronger when tested over time," Elias said. She considered that. "Then perhaps our fear of your species was misplaced." "Or incomplete," Elias said gently. The silence stretched, but it was no longer heavy. It was thoughtful. Finally, Sarixa reached for the final veil again. This time, she did not rush. She did not look to the Watchers. She looked only at Elias. "If I remove this," she said, "it will not be as tradition demands. It will be because I choose to show myself." Elias met her gaze. "Then I accept seeing you," he said. "Not owning, not controlling, just seeing." She removed the final veil. The chamber responded instantly. Light surged, not brighter, but deeper. The air vibrated with quiet energy. Sarixa stood fully unveiled, her presence no longer filtered or shielded. The living patterns on her skin glowed with emotion, shifting softly as she breathed. Elias felt it all. The bond instinct pressed hard now. a powerful need to stay close, to protect, to matter to her. His heart raced, his vision narrowed for a moment. This was the point where others had lost themselves. He did not. He clenched his jaw, planted his feet, and let the feeling pass through him instead of taking control. He reminded himself where he was, who he was. Why he had come. "You are strong," Sarixa said quietly. There was awe in her voice now, not judgment. "So are you," Elias replied. "This couldn't have been easy." Something in her expression changed. Relief, gratitude, perhaps something else unspoken. The watchers could no longer deny what they were seeing. The human had not broken. The princess had not been diminished. No one had lost control. Instead, something rare had formed. The chamber doors opened slowly. Senior Veilthrin leaders entered, their own veils heavy and bright. They moved with caution, as if approaching something fragile. "This trial has deviated," one of them said. "Yes," Sarixa answered before Elias could speak. "And it has revealed more truth than any ritual before it." The leader's gaze shifted to Elias. "You felt the bond pull and resisted." "I acknowledged it," Elias corrected. "Resisting implies fighting. I chose to respect it without obeying it." That distinction caused a visible ripple among them. "Our fear," another leader said, "was that humans would exploit our vulnerability." Elias shook his head. "Vulnerability isn't an invitation, it's a trust." Silence followed, not rejection, consideration. Sarixa stepped forward again, standing beside Elias now, not in front of him. That position alone sent a message stronger than words. "My people," she said, her voice steady, "we believed desire controlled others. We believed exposure created ownership. We were wrong. Humanity carries desire as a responsibility." The leaders exchanged glances. "What do you propose?" one asked. "Alliance," Sarixa said, "not built on biology or instinct, built on choice." The word echoed. Humans were not safe because they felt nothing. They were safe because they felt deeply and chose carefully. The decision was not immediate. Veilthrin culture did not move quickly, but something irreversible had begun. Later, when the chamber was empty and the watchers gone, Sarixa and Elias remained. "You changed everything," she said. "We both did," Elias replied. She looked at him fully, without barriers now. "What happens next?" Elias smiled, tired but genuine. "Next, we talk, learn each other's limits, build trust the slow way." "That is not our way," she said softly. "Then it can be a shared one," he answered. She considered that, then nodded once. Across the stars, word spread of the species that could be trusted with intimacy, not because they took it, but because they waited. And for the first time in Veilthrin history, the future was not written by instinct, but by choice. The announcement reached the Veilthrin capital at dawn. It did not come as a command. It came as a question. For the first time in recorded memory, the ruling council sent a message across their empire asking their own people to consider change. The message spoke of a human who had stood before a princess unveiled and had not claimed her, commanded her, or lost himself to instinct. It spoke of restraint, consent, and choice. Many were afraid, others were curious. Princess Sarixa stood on a balcony overlooking the living city, its towers grown rather than built, glowing softly in the early light. Elias stood beside her, hands resting on the railing. Days had passed since the trial, and yet neither of them felt the need to rush away from the moment it had created. "You will be remembered," Sarixa said, "whether my people accept this change or not." Elias exhaled slowly. "Humans don't usually try to be remembered by empires," he said. "We just try to do what feels right." "That may be why you frighten them," she replied. Below them, Veilthrin citizens moved through the city, some fully veiled, some lightly covered, others pausing to look up at the balcony where the princess stood openly. The sight alone was already rewriting tradition. The council requested one final act before making their decision. Not another unveiling, not another test of desire. They asked for a shared vulnerability. The chamber this time was different. No hidden watchers, no ritual markings. Just a wide circle of light and two beings standing as equals. Sarixa spoke first. "My species bonds through exposure," she said. "Yours bonds through shared experience. The council wishes to see if these paths can meet without harm." Elias nodded. "What do they want us to do?" "Speak," she answered. "Not about duty or politics, about fear." That was harder than standing under alien instincts. Elias took a moment. He had faced danger before, violence, loss, but this was different. When humans first went to the stars, he began, we were afraid we would meet something greater than us, something that would erase us. That fear never fully left. Serixa listened closely. We hide it behind pride and humor, he continued. But we are always scared of not being enough. She absorbed that quietly. My people fear the opposite, she said. We fear that our bonds make us too much, that we overwhelm others, that without our rules we will lose ourselves. The words hung between them. No instincts flared, no commands rose, only understanding. The council members stood at the edge of the chamber, witnessing something they had never seen before. A bond forming without biology forcing it. A connection built on choice. One elder stepped forward. If this path continues, they said, our empire will change forever. Serixa did not look away from Elias. Empires survive by adapting, not by clinging. The decision was made that day. Humanity and the Veilthrin would form the first alliance based not on technology, trade, or force, but on shared values. Consent, patience, mutual respect. News spread quickly across known space. Other species watched closely. Some mocked the idea, others feared it. A few paid careful attention. Not all reactions were peaceful. Within weeks, a rival coalition challenged the alliance. They believed the Veilthrin had grown weak, that humanity was manipulating them. They sent ships not to attack, but to provoke. Elias stood on the bridge of a human vessel beside Serixa, watching distant lights on the display. They're waiting for us to respond with force, he said. Yes, Serixa agreed. That is how most understand strength. What do you want to do? Elias asked. She thought for a moment. We will respond together, she said, but not as they expect. The human fleet powered down its weapons. Veilthrin ships lowered their shields. A broadcast was sent, open and clear. We will not fight you, Serixa said through the channel. But we will not be controlled by your fear. Elias stepped forward. If you want war, you will have to start it knowing we chose peace first. The rival coalition hesitated. They had planned for aggression, for dominance, not for restraint displayed as strength. After long minutes, the ships withdrew. Across space, the message spread faster than any weapon ever could. Humanity was not dangerous because it desired. It was dangerous because it could stop. Months passed. The alliance held. Elias prepared to return to Earth, his mission complete. On his final day in the Veilthrin capital, he found Serixa waiting where they had first spoken freely. You will leave, she said, not accusing, simply stating. Yes, Elias replied, but not forever. My people do not bond lightly, she said, and yet you changed us. You changed me too, he said. I came here thinking I was proving something about humans. I didn't expect to learn so much about choice. She stepped closer, not driven by instinct, but by decision. When you return, she said, it will not be as a test subject, he smiled. I'd like that. They stood there, not touching, not claiming, simply sharing the moment. Across the galaxy, other species began to ask questions of their own traditions, of their fears, of what it truly meant to connect. And it all began not with conquest or desire, but with one simple act. Waiting. Years passed, but the moment that changed everything never faded. Across human space, Elias Ward became a quiet symbol rather than a hero. He refused interviews, avoided praise, and returned to work as a cultural mediator. Yet his name was spoken in classrooms, council halls, and diplomatic circles, not as a legend of conquest, but as proof that restraint could shape history. On the Veilthrin homeworld, change moved slowly, but it moved. More citizens chose lighter veils. Some removed them only in private gatherings. Others did so in shared spaces, carefully, respectfully. The act was no longer seen as surrender or danger, but as trust. It frightened many elders. It inspired many young. Princess Serixa, now High Speaker of the Alliance, carried the weight of both worlds. Every decision she made was watched, measured, questioned. Yet she stood firm, guided not by instinct alone, but by choice. She often thought of Elias, not with longing that burned, but with a steady warmth. A reminder of a moment when she had been seen as herself, not as a symbol or test. The galaxy did not stay quiet. A new crisis emerged on the edge of known space. A species known for absorbing weaker cultures began expanding rapidly. They did not conquer with weapons. They overwhelmed with presence, forcing biological submission through proximity alone. Entire civilizations collapsed without a single battle. They turned their attention toward the Alliance. Emergency councils were called. Human and Veilthrin leaders gathered in shared chambers, tension thick in the air. They will not respect treaties, a human admiral said. They don't understand consent. They understand dominance, a Veilthrin elder replied. They will see our openness as weakness. Serixa listened to both sides, then she spoke. They will test us, she said, not our strength, our identity. A message was sent to Earth. Elia's ward was asked to return. When he arrived on the Veilthrin world again, the city felt different, less rigid, more alive. Citizens did not stare at him with suspicion anymore. They watched with curiosity, some even with gratitude. Serixa met him in a public space, unveiled, unguarded. You came, she said. You asked, he replied simply. She led him to the council chamber. The threat was explained fully. The absorbing species was already approaching alliance borders. They erase choice, Serixa said. That is their greatest weapon. Elias nodded slowly. Then they're the opposite of us. Yes, she said, which means force alone won't stop them. The council debated long into the cycle. Weapons, barriers, isolation, nothing felt right. Finally, Elias spoke. They've never faced a species that refuses both submission and domination, he said. What if we show them something they can't absorb? Silence followed. Explain, a council member said. Elias took a breath. They overwhelm others by forcing presence, by removing choice. What if we respond with deliberate restraint, a controlled exposure, mutual but limited? We let them feel us without giving them control. That is dangerous, one elder said. So was the first unveiling, Serixa replied. The plan was risky. A joint human and Veilthrin delegation would meet the expanding species at the border. No weapons active, no shields raised, just controlled presence and clear communication. Elias volunteered to stand at the center. You don't have to, Serixa said quietly when the council adjourned. I know, he replied. That's why it matters. The meeting took place in open space, ships aligned in careful formation, energy fields tuned not for defense but balance. When the absorbing species arrived, the pressure was immediate. A wave of instinct, dominance, and forced connection rolled outward. Human systems trembled. Veilthrin biology reacted sharply. Elias stood at the core of the signal exchange, grounded, focused. He did not push back, he did not surrender. He held his sense of self steady, projecting something unfamiliar. Choice. The absorbing species hesitated, they pressed harder. The alliance did not break. Serixa added her presence, steady and clear, not commanding, not yielding. Together, human and Veilthrin signals formed something new. A boundary defined not by force but by will. The absorbing species faltered. They had never encountered resistance without aggression, never met openness without submission. Communication followed, not words. Understanding, they withdrew. Across the galaxy, the event became known as the Stand Without Force. The alliance survived. More than that, it grew. Other species began reaching out, curious about this strange partnership built on restraint. New treaties formed. Old fears softened. Elias prepared to leave once more. This time, Serixa walked with him to the edge of the landing platform. You always leave, she said. He smiled faintly. Humans are good at going, but we're also good at returning. She considered that. Then carefully she reached out and touched his hand, not driven by instinct, not demanded by ritual, chosen. I will wait, she said. So will I, he replied. As his ship departed, Serixa watched the stars shift. She no longer felt bound by ancient fear. Her people no longer feared desire, they understood it. And humanity, once afraid of the galaxy, now helped shape it, not by taking, not by ruling, but by choosing.